There we are. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 9 of From Our House to Yours. I'm Virginia Amos. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker in Old Town Alexandria. And today we are talking about the 2020 Del Rey House and Garden Tour, which was supposed to take place tomorrow. It's always the Saturday of Mother's Day weekend. And this year we had to make the unfortunate, well, I shouldn't say it's unfortunate, but we had to make a really difficult decision, and that was to cancel or to postpone until next year. And so with me, I have Miss Kelly Beelan, who is on the committee with me and who's actually been on the tour as a homeowner twice. And Jen Naples, who was a newcomer and was going to be on the tour with us this year, but will be with us next year, we're sure. So Kelly, why don't you chime in, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work on the committee, and let's talk about that decision to postpone and what went into it.
Okay. Yeah, so I live on East Del Rey Avenue, and my husband and I had our house on the tour twice. Both times it's a lot of work, and it's also just a lot of fun. There's such huge neighborhood spirit in Del Rey. It's fun not only to see everyone from Del Rey who comes out to see all the homes, but people from all over Northern Virginia and DC and even Maryland sometimes. So there's just lots of people that you get to meet and talk to. And people are fascinated by the houses in Del Rey. There's so much personality in our old farmhouses and our bungalows and our Sears houses, and then some new construction. We also have some just beautiful, thoughtful new construction. So I think the tour is always a highlight of the every other year process here in Del Rey. And we only do it every 2 years. So I think that was some of
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and the decision this time, I think, we finish a tour, and I've been on the committee now twice too. So you finish the tour and then you take a really deep breath and sleep for a few days.
Yep.
And then we take a couple-month break where we're talking with each other and engaging and taking notes about what happened and what we learned. But really about 18 months out from the tour, a lot of work starts happening. And I don't think a lot of people realize that 18 months before the date, we're already listing houses and networking and trying to figure out what our plan is and what, not really our theme, but we try to group the houses in a thoughtful way so that we're showing all of the things the neighborhood has to offer, but also in a way that's walkable. You can't have houses that are like in every corner of the neighborhood. So it just takes a lot of thinking. And really, when all of the schools started talking about having to close down before the governor had made any announcements, we were talking plan B, like what if, what happens? And I think the most important thing we did was reach out to the homeowners. Because at the end of the day, as much as the committee's done their work, that last 6 weeks is all about the houses. And you sort of, at least I had put in the back of my mind, the painting and the landscaping and all that project list that everybody has for their house. When you do this, you sort of are like, okay, I've got like a couple months. I'm gonna do all of it at once. And it's a crazy couple months to fit all those projects in. And if you're talking about a time when workers aren't coming into your house, not all of the workers are working. You don't want, frankly, if you have kids or anything, people in your house right now. And so there was just a lot of talking with the homeowners about what it meant for them. And I think really it was even before the June date was announced and before we were really at stay at home, we just made a decision. The smarter thing would be to not do it this year. And then it became a conversation about, well, when do we do it if we're not going to do it this year?
So Jennifer, how did you feel? So you were going to be on the tour for the first time this year.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, Jennifer is a perfect example of the creative houses in Del Rey. All you have to do is look at the fish on her, the fish wallpaper. How did you feel when you got that call? Had you been anticipating it?
There was an email exchange that came out before that, so we had a little bit of a heads up. We had discussed it, and we're in agreement with most of the other homeowners who were said, at this point, it would be a real stretch for us to be able to present our homes in the way that we really want to be able to show them, to bring in people. We really want to make a good impression and have it reflect us and not be halfway complete or, man, I wish I'd gotten to this other project. So for us, we were actually kind of relieved to have that extra burden sort of alleviated. Like, there was so much other stuff going on with work and trying to get the kids, and do we send them to daycare? Do we bring them back home? Like, who are we comfortable bringing in our house? How do we vacate our house so that these other workers can come in? And it was just an additional stress. So with you guys making that decision to just postpone it, it was a big relief for us, honestly. I mean, we would love to have done it this year, and I think we would have rallied. But I have to be honest, like, having an extra year, I've already started a whole host of other projects, much to my husband's chagrin. So I'm finding all kinds of walls to wallpaper. So I think it worked out okay. I know it had to been a difficult decision for you guys to make that call after all the planning that went into it. But from the homeowner's perspective, like I said, we appreciated the thoughtfulness and the consideration that you guys gave us even before, they made the grand sweeping closure of everything.
Well, it's interesting. I've worked on the tour since 2010. I chaired it in 2010 and 2012 and have been involved with it ever since. And one of the things that we always say, both to the homeowners and when we start selling tickets and put the brochure together, is that it goes on rain or shine. Mm-hmm. So even if it pours down rain, that house tour is going to take place. So it kind of reminds me, the year that Art on the Avenue had to cancel because I think, a hurricane was coming through. It was literally the first time they had ever canceled. And so I hope this will go down in history as the only time that the House and Garden Tour has had to cancel and move to the next year. Because like Kelly said, there's a lot involved, and we do kind of start that process 18 months out, and so you're always wondering, what's next. So Kelly, are most of the homeowners on board for next year?
Yes. The good news is that everyone in Delray really does just rally around this event. So the majority of everyone's committed to it at this point. We'll get into the details later and see what happens as we reopen. Yeah. But at this point, everyone, I think, was relieved and also excited about joining the tour in 2021.
Good. That's going to be difficult because I'm so used to even years for the tour. Yeah. That now we're going to have to recalibrate because we're going to be on those odd years. Right. The other thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, particularly from the outside, that this is actually the Delray House and Garden Tour is sponsored by the Rey Citizens Association, and it is absolutely their largest fundraiser. At all, for everything. There's some small ones in between, but this is the really big one. And so not only was it, it was hard because of that, although I think the association has just done some great things. But I just wanted to point out that as a result of what we bring in from the Delray House and Garden Tour, and every year the committee sits down and they choose a project that they present to the executive board of where we would like to really make a difference in the community, which I think has been terrific. In 2018, the tour gave $15,500 to the Delray Gateway Project and the Nancy Dunning Memorial Garden. And in 2016, we gave $12,000 to the Mount Vernon Community School Playground Project. So those are significant dollars that we bring back into the community.
I think that was actually one of the reasons when I joined the first tour that they got me on board, is the pocket park next to my house was pending. The city had just bought the property And they were talking about what they were going to build there. And one of the things that was thrown at me was like, we're going to donate the money this year from the tour to that park next to your house. It's like, oh, I think that was one of the things that clenched the deal. But it also has been one of the best things that I think the committee does. Like, you can walk around the neighborhood and you can see where the money has gone, and it's gone into improving our neighborhood. And there's so many young families and people who enjoy the outdoors and walk in this neighborhood. And a lot of the money has gone to public projects like parks.
I think, which is so important, and those projects take a lot of money, and sometimes they get it in dribs and drabs. But to be able to really give, a good lump sum has really, I know, pushed some of the projects over the top, and that's pretty gratifying.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, how did we? I honestly don't remember. I know I came and looked at your house and I absolutely loved it. Did you volunteer yourself, or did somebody else volunteer you to be on the tour?
A little bit of both, I think. So we have an Instagram account for our house.
Okay.
We wanted to keep track. When we moved into the neighborhood in 2016, our house is in great condition. It's a 1925 4-square. It'd been lovingly renovated. Tastefully so. But when we moved in and decided we needed a little bit extra space for our growing family, we decided to keep track of that. And so we started an Instagram account for it called Hume Sweet Home, since we live on Hume Avenue. And because of that, we tagged Del Rey as the location, the geolocation. And I think there are other members of the community who identified our house and had asked if we had been approached about the home tour. When we first moved here, that was one of the first things that I did, was go on the home tours. And I told my husband at the time, man, wouldn't that be the dream to be invited for the home tour? This is our goal in life, Mark. And lo and behold, we were referred by somebody else. They said, let me put your name forward. And I think that person was the one who contacted you guys. And then we got the email that said, would you be interested? And I jumped at that opportunity because it just means a lot. I know that Del Rey has a great sense of community. And, we found when we moved here, it was a little bit more difficult because we didn't have kids yet. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to integrate into a community, and we didn't have those ready-made factors like when you're in school or when you're in your early training programs, how you are forced together and make friends with your peers. And so this has been an amazing opportunity to meet people in the community via Instagram, to connect with neighbors, to form a support network, and being able to just trying to find docents to help with during the tour. People at my work were really eager to volunteer, and so we were able to build a lot of different relationships, and it provided that impetus, I think, to promote that sense of community that we didn't really know how to approach. And so that's kind of how we got introduced, was initially through the Instagram account, and then me being like, yay. So
and of course now the House and Garden Tour has its own Instagram account.
Yes.
And we're actually getting a lot of followers. It's fun. So I want to give, she's not on with us today, but I want to give a big shout out to Christine Hess, who is the chair of our committee and is doing it for the second time, which is always a brave thing. But Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about the committee and kind of how we work and how we get started? Because it's a pretty eclectic mix, and but it all comes together.
Well, I think it reflects Del Rey, right?
Well, true.
We're a pretty eclectic community, and I think that's one of the things that draws so many people here. I think I've served on the committee twice now, and in that time alone, it's changed and evolved. And I think that's really positive. A lot of, for whatever reason, the last time around, a lot of homeowners who were on the tour openly expressed at the end of the day, they didn't really want this to be over. How could they get more involved? And so for that first committee meeting, they were invited. And there's also just been other members of the community who are intrigued by the tour, or sort of, honestly, some of these are just the super volunteers who do everything. But we have a really, really big, for us this time, and good group of people who are doing everything from the marketing and communications to publicity to how do we coordinate the literally hundreds of volunteers that we need to pull this off. So there's a lot of pieces that have to come together.
We lost Jennifer for some
Yeah.
reason. I hope she'll pop back on, but there she is.
Okay.
Don't know exactly what happened. I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
And I would imagine, and you're a perfect example, that it's really valuable to have people on the committee who have actually been on the tour because they understand the process.
Yeah, and one of the new things that we started this year, and Jennifer can talk about that, is we hadn't had a specific liaison role to the homeowners. And one of the things we've noticed in the previous tours is that the homeowners seemed to sort of lag what the committee knew. And some of that was valuable information, and they didn't really know where to go. So Virginia and I actually together were making sure this year that the homeowners knew these are the names, these are the emails. If you have a question, this is what's going on. And we'd really sort of just gotten, I think, our stride going on that when we had to shut everything down. But the good news is we had that relationship, and we already had the communications channels open to have that conversation.
And speaking of communication, I know when I first did it with Elise Reader back in 2010, social media was not even really on our radar screen. The tour had just kind of been chugging along, doing it very much the same way every year. And that's the one thing that I've really noticed this year and last year is that the tour and the mechanisms behind it have really kind of fast forwarded, and particularly around publicity, that we're able to use social media in such a smart way to let people know, because the spring, May, is really, really busy. Everything is going on. It's one of the reasons we finally decided to just do Mother's Day weekend every year, because what better present than a house and garden tour for moms? But you have all these other house and garden tours going on too, and finding your niche and differentiating yourself is a challenge. And I think that you and Matt particularly have done a great job with social media and just getting us into the right channels so that people know what's happening.
I mean, thanks. I think it's been a big jump, and you're helping out with the social media as well, right? It's something that we're learning as we go. Yeah. And I think the good news is now, we got everything stood up, but now we have another year to really get it going.
Jennifer, did many people know that you were going to be on the tour? We do ask the so you're like not the big surprise for 2021. We normally kind of keep it under wraps, but we just couldn't resist having you on. Did many people know ahead of time that you were going to be on the tour?
Not really, no. It was one of those things, but we know you guys sort of through the interview and the nomination process, and then had the visit. And so people knew that we had been visited, that we were possibly on the tour, but we didn't want to jinx anything, so we didn't tell too many people just in case, because I knew I would be heartbroken. So we beforehand, but after we got the confirmation that we'd been selected as one of the homes, we told immediate family and people at work. And then on Instagram, I didn't really want to announce it because I thought that maybe that was something you guys kept under wrap. And so the person who had nominated me had asked, were you selected? So I told them privately. But I hadn't told a lot of people beforehand. But I guess they know.
Now everybody will know. But that's just fine. They'll still buy their tickets and come see what's going on. So it's funny. I probably, like a lot of people in Delray, I've been doing a lot of walking. And walking is such a great way to know the neighborhood, but I swear once you're on the committee, you kind of never lose that inclination to write down house numbers. I pass houses and I go, oh, that looks really interesting. Or I take a picture so that I have that, the house number with me, because I think in the back of our minds, we're just always cataloging possibilities for a tour to come.
Sure.
And I know one of the things that happens is sometimes a homeowner is really not quite ready to be on the tour, or don't think that they can get ready in 6-9 months. And so they'll say, well, can you put us on the list for the future? And I think that's one of the other things, Kelly, is that we do have a really strong list that we keep from year to year, so that we can always go back and we have some things that we can pull from.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a spreadsheet to beat all spreadsheets, right?
We do. And I just found on Instagram, and gosh, I can't think of the name of it, but one of our other houses that was going to be on the tour, they have a big kind of neighborhood / community garden in the back, and they have their own Instagram account now.
Oh,
so,
great.
Yeah, they do.
You're on a way to link all of that.
I know. We're gonna have to do that when we get ready for all of our publicity next spring. So, what are kind of next steps here? Everybody's just kind of in waiting, and what the committee will probably get back together in the fall for.
I mean, Chris is probably better to answer that than I am, but I think that the committee are doing what everybody in Virginia is doing right now. We're staying at home, we're getting through the day, we're figuring out how to juggle all the new hats that we're wearing 24 hours a day. So I would imagine late summer, early fall, we'll reconvene. And the good news is we have more of a head start than we usually do in the fall.
Don't we know?
Visiting and selecting homes in the fall. So this time
right.
around it will be a little bit different, but we'll be ready.
Okay, so Jennifer, do you have a big project in mind before next year? I know you're putting in your knot garden.
Yes, so we're putting in our garden. We got the dirt for that, so hopefully we'll have some nice plants out back, and then having landscaping done in the front to finish it off. That was something that we were feeling a little bit of a push for, because everybody needs to do landscaping in the spring. So now we have a little bit of a luxury in terms of selecting the right plants. We are talking about maybe trying to get our screened-in porch off the back, because right now all of in our family room we have a door to nowhere. It's just a French door that opens into nothing, which is a little odd if you pay too much attention to it. So we were thinking maybe this would be a good opportunity to wrap that up, but we haven't really made too much progress finalizing that yet. So if we did that, that would be our big project. But everything else is just kind of putting the finishing touches and trying to polish and make sure that our home reflects our personality, for better or for worse.
Oh, it does. It does. And it's wonderful. All right. Well, Kelly, I know that you've got to get something out of the oven. So I'm going to ask each of you 2 questions that I ask everybody. So Jennifer, what is the one thing that you have not been able to do without during this time?
I've not been able to do without.
It could be TV, it could be food, whatever.
I would say outdoor time, whether it's just a walk around the neighborhood or sitting on the front porch and swinging, just to get the toddlers outside. I have a almost 3-year-old and a just turned 1-year-old. And so we need that extra outdoor space just for the fresh air, and so they can scream at the top of their lungs and not drive everybody crazy. So I would say rain or shine, we're getting outside at least for a few minutes every day.
Okay. And what are you looking forward to most when this is all over?
I'm looking forward to just being able to follow through with the plans that we keep making. So a lot of that is just, relationship wise, like I've been saying, and I've been hearing a lot of, when this is over, let's get together, or when this is over, let's have a party, or when this is over, we're coming to visit. And I'm just looking forward to finally being able to follow through with that and reconnect with the people on a physical, face-to-face hugs and handshakes. And I know that my toddler, especially, of all the people in our household, she's the 3-year-old is the one who I think has struggled the most, because she doesn't understand why people don't want to play with her anymore. And she doesn't understand why she can't go to school, and trying to reframe that and get her back to some semblance of normal where she can have those interactions, I think is something that we're anxiously awaiting.
I've heard a lot of that. And Kelly, what about you?
The one thing that we couldn't do without flour. So I discovered I'm a stress baker during all of this. I had no idea. But one of my neighbors gave me sourdough starter, and it's actually been
I've seen a lot of that going
kids
around.
and I are doing together. So we bake a lot now. And in fact, the reason I need to leave is we have challah in the oven for dinner.
Very cool.
So and then finding flour has been an adventure as well. So there's that. And then, it's last night, the Northern Virginia Swim League canceled swim team this summer. And that is a family thing in my house. And both my kids actually swim year round. I can't wait to see my kids swim in a pool. Like, I just can't wait. And I'm going to sit through their next practice, even if it's 90 minutes long, because it's beautiful and I miss it and they miss it and I miss swimming pools.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. That I'm not sure what the most important thing is, but it's a lot of what you're both saying. And ultimately, it's always about that connection with people, whether they're in the swimming pool and, or you're hugging somebody's neck. And you don't really, I think, appreciate that until it's taken away from you.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, thank you both so much. I just keep thinking about tomorrow, and in some ways, I hope it's pouring down rain. It'll make me feel slightly better, which means then that 2021 is just going to be a fabulous
I think we deserve that.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be a fabulous tour. And my guess is that when we start gearing up for 2021, we'll probably come back and do some more of this and maybe interview some more homeowners and give people some sneak peeks at what's going on. So anybody who's out there listening, mark your calendar for Mother's Day weekend, that Saturday in 2021, for the Delray House and Garden Tour. And Kelly Beelan and Jennifer Naples, thank you. I look forward to seeing you around the neighborhood sometime soon.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Here we go.